Good morning. Today is Wednesday. It's Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas if I don't go out tomorrow. I probably won't. We are north of the the Tribog area today, and like I said the last video, we're going to try to find an ingress to the briar patch, as I now call it, from the other side, and that's where we are today. We're going to try to do that. It's kind of windy and sleety, so I don't know how long this is going to last. I wasn't supposed to do this today, but here we are. The nature of New England winter, so we will do our best, gauge the weather as we go, and see where we end up. So come on along, and you know the drill. Thanks. Test. Okay, the camera might be having issues, so bear with me, but not quite to our objective yet. I was just going to give a quick report on tracks. We have definitely encountered deer tracks. These are either Yodi tracks or coy dog or just dog tracks. We've also seen either raccoon and or more likely porcupine tracks as an interesting mix, as well as probably some kind of vole. So just a gentle reminder that the snow is a leveler of the playing field, so you know what's going on. I think we're looking for over there, a little further in, but I have a rough idea where the entrance point is going to be, and of course, I just cut my finger on. So anyway, regardless, we'll figure that out when we get back to the car. We have a first aid kit, we'll deal with it. Anyway, we're going to move on, just a quick check-in, and we'll be back in a bit. Back, and we have done some measurements along such as a trail as it is, and I am going to make my best educated guess around the corner for making entry, which I think is down there. You see, if you see how that opens up a little bit, I think that is our point of entry. And just to make the point, the area in question is multiple hundreds of yards long, so you're going to see it from the distance, especially if you're approaching it from uphill. So that being said, best bet is coming around the corner back onto relatively solid ground. Be nice if this cut stopped bleeding, because I don't have a band-aid on me yet. So I'm going to be playing vampire while I'm going in, and then I'll bandage up when I get back to the car. But if I didn't articulate this well before, the intention for today is to locate the way in from over here, because the ways in from the other side after some minor overlanding is a soggy, wet briar patch, and not ideal. So it is what it is. Over here, maybe it opens up more. If it doesn't, we know the connections, and we have mapped largely a lot of what is the greater area. And so, yeah. Okay, let me get back off this patchwork ice situation and find a decent point of entry. And then let's figure this out. This looks as good as any. Hop the fence, mound, whatever you want to call it, and go that way. Let us do that. Keeping an eye and an ear on the camera, because it told me to check the SD card once, which, knowing that SD cards don't last forever, we'll see how we do. I do have a replacement, not on me, of course, but that's how shit happens. We're going to go, because we have snow, we have a backtrackable circumstance there. We're going to go that way and see what the nature of the terrain a couple of 100 yards in as I gauge the obviousness or lack thereof of my tracks, and the swamp, if we have swampiness in here due to the logging situation, which is either going to help or hinder me one way or the other. I don't think it goes all the way there though, and I think I need to kind of go into the timber a bit to actually see if I can locate this place. Odds are probably in my favor. I'm going to parallel here though, just to still think it's more over that way. But location is the intent of today, and we'll go from there. And arguably go in a little deeper than we have before, once I find a way around this pricker stuff, because that ain't gonna help any cuts any. So we'll have to try to avoid or find a avenue through here. See if we can, so maybe there and over that way. Let's do that. Might not also hurt to follow the Bambi tracks, who are probably trying to do a lot of the same thing. So, the joys of New England thorn bushes. They're not grabber bushes of Vermont, but Connecticut has its own joys. Okay, so let's kind of get a gander. That log over there is going to be our angle of approach once we're around this, because that's all prickers, that's all prickers, that is not. So let's do that. One thing I've learned over time, if you do like get a minor cut or burn when you're camping or hiking or something and you don't have a Band-Aid, it doesn't kill you to have a roll of electrical tape, because that will at least keep the damn thing covered until you can get out, get home, and deal with it. Okay, so let's see here. The terrain is suggesting that I'm on the right track, but I'm going to find a point on the ridge line and start working my way basically this way, and we will see if I can find an obvious opening, and then I'll poke my way through to see what I can find. Again, trying to minimize the pricker bushes. And some of that navigational consideration too. Let's see. Luckily the pants are relatively thick. So we have to deal with some dense pine trees, but either have what I call forest mirage on the other side, or you have wait. Looking for an opening. Given the nature of the surrounding area on the other side of this thing, not I don't see this is viable. Oh, hold on. Let's get past this bullshit and get over to where it's less aggravating. If I don't kill myself doing this. God damn it. And don't get shit in my eye. Almost looks like you can, but it's like thick as thick can be, though. Anyway, the other way in was a little easier. The loggers have made this kind of suck. But either way, let's see here. So this may actually be it, but it may open up more over there, giving more visibility. So we'll continue that run. We're not actually that far from the trail either, for anyone curious. We're actually kind of doing a hard parallel. The trail is basically over there. It's just this area is down in a dip on both sides. It's hard to see from the other end because it's a couple of hundred yards in. Fuck you, prickers. And we may be getting to a point where they give up. Okay, so let's, now that we're down here, is that just, let's see. That's looking pretty thick, so we'll make a couple of entry attempts in here. I want to go down that far, though. Okay. Hopefully that's the end of that. Fortunately, if that looks the way it looks, it's either very thick or it probably opens up to the same kind of bullshit on this end. Let's do two things. What I'm going to do, there's an opening right there. I'm going to try to see what's through there. And if not, I'll make my way over there. So we start here. If I can get around this little stick pile that the nice loggers have made for me. Or see if I can wade through it or some BS. So this might be it, but let's, like I said, I did a decent amount of measuring. I'm not just going to randomly walk in and then never find it and turn it into a multiple month odyssey. It's like you have measuring, it's in the middle of a larger area, and that does look like it opens up in there. We can get in there, and if I can look out the other side, then I can kind of gauge if it's worth the time and energy or not, because if it's just more briar shit, which is entirely possible. I made at least 3 different attempts to enter it on the other side, and it basically is this low-hanging underbrush and clumps of dry land around swampy outcroppings here and there, and that is unhelpful. I think this is it. Excuse me. I don't mind the scrub brush. I'm just wondering if the swampiness is any better. We may have gotten this first attempt. Let's take a look. this particular neck of this particular woods, you and I are seeing together for the first time. I always assume they just kind of abused it with logging, but I see. The other thing I have to bear in mind is there's also a large wetland that way. So let's move past the logging zone and verify I still have a viable trackway. Not that that's that hard, but still, you do. We'll just have to follow it diligently on the way out. Okay, so let's do two things. So now that we have a little bit of easier ground to cover, over there, and over there. And probe and see if this is the area. As opposed to naughty things aliens may do to people. This is looking kind of interesting even if it isn't, but let's kind of parallel inspect obviousness of tracks. Again, we're not actually seeing snow right now, so that's going to work in our favor. Did you hear that too? Not sure what that was. But I was standing still at the time. I don't think it was me. Okay. So in the slight example of if this was going to prove to be a wild animal encounter, rodent critter, you're fine for the most part. I did post on Facebook the other week, though, how I had encountered a rabid raccoon. That was interesting. Deer, fine. Moose, probably good with a warning shot. If you ran into a bear, because it's not... I'm going to try over there. That looks like it opens up more, maybe. Sorry if I think aloud as I do this. Let's have a look. With a bear and you're armed with a 380 ACP, which is the easiest thing to conceal in a very blue state. A warning shot, because you're not going to fucking do anything more than piss it off if you actually try to shoot it, or if you do, you're going to have to commit. And by that I mean you walk right up to it, point blank range if it doesn't run, and you mag dump directly between its eyes. Because otherwise you are going to piss it off and guarantee yourself a struggle with said bear that is now probably wanting you dead. It looks like it opens up over here. We're going to start over here. So when you look over here, and then again, this could be something completely different, but I'm going to have to do my best gauging by getting up into this. And this, that looks like it's a little uphill, which nothing saying it couldn't be given that, but let's go over here and wind in here a little. We're not that far from the way out, but I do see things opening up. So we might be like a hill in a dale away from our intended target. What I would hope to do is maybe find a flat area I can see through and verify that before I commit. I'm wondering if this is, and then I'll kind of backtrack and try to locate the more direct straight line in by way of, definitely opens up. And I'm not that worried about getting turned around because you can see the tracks, and I'm not more than, as I kind of figured, 200-300 yards in from the trail, and this does definitely open up. Let's pursue this angle. Kind of make a little beeline over here if this is the back end of the big one over there, because that's also a sizable wetland. Or let's also take a second. Okay. Looking for the least contentious way to sneak through, or at least get a peek, if that's doable in here. I think on the far side of this laurel patch might be workable for at least a long-range peek of this area. It's at least deep enough to give me tracks enough to gauge my way back. I think if I am where I think I am, and I did measure this fairly good, and what would be great, not today because of the wind level, if we got a still day, what you can do to verify is find a patch where you can get the drone up in the air. I'm not going to even attempt that with the wind today is easily 20 miles an hour, and even something the size of a Spark is has been taken, not is, can, or it has been taken by the wind, so we're not doing that. And ironically, I have had to do a Find My Drone test run on Christmas Day a couple years back because the drone went down in a controlled landing, and due to a number of monetary factors, the rising prices of drones, and that is actually something to discuss, actually, since drones have been and are pertinent to my field efforts. As of this week, the federal government under the Trump administration, regardless of how you felt them, has banned all future sales of DJI drones, which are the big sellers, and that changes the game a bit in terms of your options. What I did, should I need an upgrade at some point, what I was able to ascertain, I wonder if this is the back end of the one in Mass, because you are close enough to that, which would make the other one over that way. But let's kind of, if there should be a trail or something through here, though, because there's a trail literally right on the state line, and it does go straight for a ways. So after a short hike through logging related flotsam, you do get to a point where you can see this. Not that exploring this is not a viable set of circumstances, because I know two ways in from both sides. It'd be great if you would stop doing that. As I Be nice if I could walk right up to the edge, but I mean, this is really looking like the other one. Given its location, is that a trail right there? Let's verify that, because if it is, then this is definitely the other one on the Mass side. You know, we're going to stop shy. I think that pretty much is the trail. It is, and there's snowmobilers over there. Verifying my thoughts. So that is the backside of the, that is the trail, I think. Let's maintain a certain discreet presence on the safe side of the line. Yeah, that is. Okay, so this is the wrong one. Attempt number 1, swing and a miss. And as much as I might get annoyed at snowmobilers being out here on the Connecticut side, that side is private land and therefore none of my business. So we are again going to fall back to the Connecticut side. Looking for my tracks. Which are visible, but you kind of have to pay attention. So, over there. So plan B, go back the way we came in. I mean, you could follow the fucking trail the way out if you actually had to. So I'm not that worried about it. I do kind of want to stick to the plan at hand, though, and not be seen by Massachusetts people on the wrong side of the line packing. So as long as I'm over here, I'm good. So that does actually help narrow that down a lot. That is the backside of the other wetland. And I'm going to actually take a segment break and cover a little ground to get back to where I was and not lose myself tracking. And we will be back in a bit. We're on the trail again. I kind of lost my tracks, but by then I was out of the deeper tree line down that way and could kind of deduce where everything was. Worst case scenario, if I go that way, there's the state line trail that will, you just walk that back. Hopefully you're on the right side of the state line, but that versus being lost, to be blunt, fuck being lost. And what we are looking for, I'm thinking now, is more over that way, and to verify, which by way of which I mean cheat, if we can get a day with not so crazy winds, which this time of year is kind of a good luck with that situation. They were logging over that way, and they have a little staging area where we could cheat and use the use that area to launch a drone and get up high enough and do a flyover and cheat, because that's what I used to do. Not used to do, it's what I do in Vermont. Like I said, I was kind of waiting out. Some days I just don't want to bring in the pack because it's a little cumbersome. This day would be kind of that because I knew where I was going. The odds of getting lost are not impossible, but they are minimal, especially in snow where you have tracks, just to beat that dead horse. But so basically this area, so it's a day later, Merry Christmas, it is Christmas Day, and I am out in the woods today for your curiosity, because me and mine do our Christmas celebration, not, excuse me, on Christmas Eve, and But nonetheless, Merry Christmas, everybody. I hope you're having an awesome holiday. So a recap on yesterday. Long story short, my SD card ran out of space yesterday because, again, I forgot to format it, which I did do immediately upon going home and saving yesterday's video. We ended up on the backside of a wetland which goes over into Massachusetts, and then today I had a chance to review Google Maps to ascertain where things are, and to my embarrassment, I have to admit I was a little bit off, and it's a little deeper in to get there. So what we're going to do today is a more moderate, excuse me, ingress to find the easiest route to get in there, because it's sort of parallel to where the other one is. And then you go in another couple hundred yards from the look, and it's in there, but it's a ways. The more problematic side with that is that it's also private land. So that makes me wonder if the overall more practical way to do this is to make your way there from the way we came in last week and basically try to parallel the entire western side to get to the other side that way. And we're here doing this piece today, but we may go at it that angle. Just do a full loop around the edge. And if it is a big, massive briar patch, it's good habitat for them, and mainly just because it's such a delightful pain in the rear to get in there. Because otherwise, a lot of going through this in that direction. And yesterday's findings were, it gets real thick in there. Making the other plan seem a little more reasonable, but we're going to see if there's a better way to come down, because that's what we're going to do today anyway. So consider this the morning recap / briefing, and we're going to get in there and see what we find. And if we follow up tomorrow, because I do have the time, that is dependent on snow. This area is going to get overall supposedly later in the afternoon, so there is a window to get in here, but it's like 3 to 6, so getting here by way of certain roads, think steep hills and snow, would make that interesting too. We'll have to see what the timing of things is, and so they'll take that from there. Once we're done obsessing on this little briar patch area, little being like 600 yards or whatever, we're going to get back up into that over there and try to just blanket map this area to the degree that I have areas like the 5 bogs. But for now, segment break number 1, and we are going to get in there. We'll be back shortly. We're back. Darned if I said we wouldn't be. We just came through that, and as much as that doesn't look like much, all the red coloration you see in there is a good old Connecticut thorn bush. Which means if you're ever going to try to replicate what I do today, wear some thick ass pants and a coat, because if you don't, you are going to be chewed up something fierce. As I pick little branchlets that have clung to my coat. walking through this stuff. So if the camera bounces for a minute, bear with me while I get this stuff off. And unfortunately, the way back out really doesn't have a better alternative. To get to this, you have to go through that. And my immediate goal, and somebody was nice enough to be in here already. Human-sized print looks like a boot. Is to find out, we're going to go into this today and see how thick it is consistently. If only because the way to over there is unfortunately through this shit. So we don't really have a choice, I don't think. I'm going to match to the best degree that I can this trail, or make my own because I just lost it. And how far into this we go is going to be dependent on how crappy it is and if we can weave, because on the other side you have areas that look like this too, but once you get down into them they actually seem to open up a little bit. So we're gonna go around that, make entry in there, and then see how unforgiving it is. I had thought it was over there, but I looked at Google Maps today and it's still over there. The problem is it's way over there. So the mission for today has kind of morphed a little bit from yesterday. And what that means in immediate terms is I'm also trying to see how discernible my tracks are over this, because I don't want to rely on them on the way back out and then lose them because of this bumpy, rocky crap. If I can get over there and go in that way. This doesn't look that bad, but if you look in there, that does look a lot thicker, doesn't it? So we're going to do... In other good news, too, I, after going to church last night, had the ability to rescue my computer, so you actually will get a video of this, because it did... The version of Linux I use has a reputation for, if you get behind on updates, it gets to a point where you're actually better off just doing an upgrade, like not an update, but an upgrade to a full new version. I do not see something on the other side of there, but that is the purpose of the immediate mission. If I can get through this lovely bumpy rock deadfall nonsense. And I think the best way to really do this, rather than hop that, we're going to have to do like a zigzag. I don't have to like it, but I'm going to step on the rock. And we'll hop this log over here. I'm just doing my best to keep making notable tracks with my boot tread, so I know which way I came in. And we'll go from there. That way or that way, over those and in, is going to be how we do this. Around that way seems to do the best for tracks. Although this really isn't rocket science. Basically, the briar patch is that way, and you get chewed up either way. There's no angle to come out that isn't all prickers. So, fun times either way. Like I said, if you ever try to replicate this, thick pants, thick jeans, thick hunter's pants, they did an admirable job of not chewing me to shreds. And we're going to do some rock hopping. Hold. Ah, criminy. It's not that cold today, but I really don't feel like getting my feet wet if I don't have to. So, again, trying to walk A, on things that are solid, but B, they're going to leave tracks so I can find my way back through this bullshit. Which fortunately is mossy enough. Yeah, so if you go down there, you can just see the red down there. It just goes right to the tree line, and it's all thorns. So, the other question is, I mean, we're going to get into dry land here, right? Because we're just going across this is going to get old. I mean, it's frozen, but in the spring, this would probably be a little soggier. But we're like literally 3 feet from our goal, too. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dryish land. There doesn't really seem to be that. Let me get this tree out of the way. There doesn't seem to be one area better than the other. What I'm trying to find is one angle through here where you can see stuff through, and I don't. So we're just going to go up the little rise here, go in there. And as I said, we're just going to see how thick this is. And we'll take our assessment from there. I kind of sort of see an opening through this stuff, so maybe this is the best angle. At least we can make ground without chewing the crap out of ourselves now. Not being quiet for dramatic effect. I'm just trying to figure out path of least resistance. Which one way or another is going to be hopping this log. At least the tracks are taking well, so I'll shut up about that and stop. Focus more on the navigation of this, because now we're getting up into the thickness, which initially doesn't look as bad as the daunting picture from a distance looks. So far anyway. So plan continues as was. Up the rise into this. Because like I said, as you look into it, it looks really thick. But you got squirrels and bunnies in here, if nothing else. I think those are in Bambi. So what we want is generally that direction, so let's try that. In a minute I might take a segment break. What I had started to address yesterday, when my camera was nice enough to have the SD card crap out because it was full of space though, was this week, if no one else follows drone related news, the administration that is our president, love him or hate him, has outlawed any and all future DJI drones, which is most of your cheaper stuff. So unless you have $1,000 plus to get a Skydio or something, That does look like it opens up a little, though. We're going to see if we can get through there and do a straight line, because we can assess from that point. Wasn't as hard to get in here as I thought. Is the Potensic Atom 2, which is the one mainstay drone. I didn't know whether or not Potensic was a Chinese company or not. It seems like they all are. And the problem with that is they're all banned now. I mean, DJI is the poster child, but they are not the only one, because you have the major competitors in that price range are Potensic and Holy Stone. And Potensic apparently is not a Chinese company. I could be wrong, but they, at the moment, from what I've read, the Atom 2 is available non-ban wise. And the Holy Stone equivalents as well. I have looked at their stuff, and it's decently comparable to a DJI offering of... Hello. No, there's a tree that's... Yeah, that does open up a little bit. Let's let the wind die down a little bit first to allow for widowmakering. So if I can get to the other side of that, that actually opens up into something, if that's what it is. Or if you're on a rise above it, I can just see if it's like worth going into the briar patch. If it's a briar patch on this side, or if it actually opens up. Enough thinking about it. Let's make some effort to get through this and see how we do. Yeah. I might have just heard human noise, which I don't see any hunters. I didn't see any vehicles for hunters, so I think I'm out here alone. It definitely does open up, and if it's... Let's just find the easiest way through this, and then we will... have a peek and see what we're dealing with. How are we getting back out of here? Can you see your tracks? Yeah, follow them back. I didn't... Okay. But if it's well, then we know it's a forest mirage, and it just keeps going, because this on the map, on Google Maps, this did go for a ways, which is why doing it in snow is better, because you can actually use your tracks. But it does get thicker, though. I'm smelling forest mirage, but well, we made the trip, so well, either that or you're on a rise looking down into something. Do we still receive? Yeah, we can hear you. Okay, cool. We're slowly making our way through some fairly dense-ish stuff with a few alterations. I heard that. Looks thick. It does, but... All right, we're going to take a minor break to do some assessing now that we're getting closer to this, and we'll see how we do. It keeps looking thick, but I keep being able to get through if I sneak through. The question is, am I heading towards something, or is it just more of the same? Because I could just be bumping around in here. So we'll be back in a bit. Let me do some assessing. We'll be back. We're back on the trail. The segment break took a longer time than we thought. I actually got involved in keeping my eyes on navigation. The one thing I'm going to say is there's no way in or out of this without all that you see right there is Connecticut thorn bushes. And we're at that point where I'm going to probably pull up somewhere and count my puncture wounds, because that was not the most fun that I have ever had. And the recap for this segment of the day anyway would be that you could probably get to where I want to go in there, but you could also potentially get pretty lost. So the fallback plan to bring the kibosh on the briar patch, we're going to go back in the way we came last week, and we're just going to walk the circumference of the damn thing, because it is doable. And Jesus Christ, this whole fucking trail is ice. I'm going to give my knee a second to get over that. That sucked. To minimize the height of just on the joys of winter hiking. And I was just whining about thorn bushes. So, yeah, if we're not curtailed by an injury tomorrow, and we're not sorry, I'm assessing the level of discomfort it just caused. And we're not thwarted by a early snowstorm, we're going to do that instead, because that at least is a doable endeavor. It will help us chart the exact size of this big thing. You can get in there more easily from there. It's approachable from this angle, but it is a much... And plan B on that is also the state line trail may or may not, because there is a lag of that trail that heads in that general direction, might take you within view of it. So I may pursue that option as well. I guess my knee will live. I just got to watch my step on this crap, especially going downhill here. I'm amazed my fingers are not bleeding from being fucking riddled with fucking goddamn thorns now. The trail may afford me that ability, but I'm going to try the other way first, because that's a guaranteed level of getting there, and then you can just walk around the thing and see how far it is and see if it does actually allow for a entrance into there. The theory being that if you can actually find a way in there, migratory Squatch folks, should they make it down this way, it's perfect friggin' cover. It is a thorny bitch to get in there from one direction, and it's a wet, thorny bitch to get in from the other way. And if there's a one small avenue in there, that's probably your only option to get in. And for that reason alone, perfect cover. You got water. There is definitely game in there. So the basics of habitat are covered, and when you get into the dire cold of winter and you hear the wind, this area is prone for wind, but it's way down in a dip. And from my memory last week, and from even when I was in there right now, between the thickness of the tree cover and the fact you are kind of down in a dip, you're like down away from the wind, and that does absolutely make so much of a difference. If you're down in like 10 degrees or lower, it's like not being in the wind is such a difference. Of course, if it's that cold down here, we usually have on average 1 week in late January that's like frigid, like nasty frigid, and then it gets back to normal. Ow. But they, yeah, we're not doing the ice thing here. But they would still have it warmer more than they wouldn't than up there, because up there it's like in the minus temperatures, like it's been like 6 or less probably 75% of the time that they're up there. So environmentally, there are times when it makes more sense for them to migrate south, if in fact they do that. That has been my partial theory for a while. Changing conditions are sometimes prelude for migration or changing locations. Anyway, that is going to be the recap for today, minus anything extraordinary happening, and I'm going to pay attention to the ice situation as I limp to the car slightly. And we'll see if that gets all stiff for the morning or what happens. I'll try to stretch it when I get home. Fun is. Until next time, we'll probably be out tomorrow to beat the snow. And then the rest of the weekend is like snow. So we'll see if we have an ability to get out after that. But might not be till next week. So stay tuned, and we'll probably catch back up tomorrow for the last leg of a multi-day video. Like, subscribe, and all that if we don't. Anyway. Until then, we'll see you.